Hello everyone, Gaming Smiley here and welcome to another movie review. But this is what it's all been leading up to, all of these It reviews. All the reviews of, It. This one. Basically it's all been leading up to this, the review of Chapter 2, and I realised that I forgot to give this one a rating. So I give it, Part 1, Chapter 1, a 8 red balloons out of 10. Because some of the scares aren't very great, but the story is alright. Quite a lot of the lines are good, and and cinematography. I mentioned all that last time. All that's good. But now I'm going to give you a little bit of a non-spoiler review for It Chapter 2. I kind of paused because I had to realise that it said non-spoiler instead of spoiler. But here we go. Non-spoiler. It Chapter 2 is pretty good, in my opinion. It is almost as good as Chapter 1, but there's a bit of a problem where it's really long. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes, which it doesn't drag. It doesn't feel like it's been 2 hours and 50 minutes because there's quite a lot of scary parts, a lot of creepy parts. Gotta be honest, and if you enjoyed Chapter 1, you'll probably enjoy this one. If you didn't like Chapter 1, you ain't gonna like this one. That's all I gotta say. I'd probably give it a 7.5 red balloons out of 10. How do you get a 0.5? How do you get half a balloon? You don't blow as much air in it. But so there we go. If you are done, because you don't want any spoilers, I would suggest if you're going to watch this, don't find any spoilers. Avoid spoilers at all costs. It's pretty worth it, It's pretty worth it to watch without spoilers, because that'd be good. But I'm done speaking about non-spoilers, and here we go. Spoiler time. This film was directed by the same director as Chapter 1, Andy Muschietti. Well, not Machete, but Muschietti. His name's Andrew, but everyone calls him Andy. And he does a good job. He did a good job the first time, and as I said earlier, he does a good job with this one too. The composer Ben Wallfish is back, and he does a good job, and the entire cast pretty much does a good job. Quite a lot of the cast from Chapter 1 are back, especially pretty much everyone actually. Pretty much everyone from Chapter 1 is back. Apart from the dead children, but that doesn't matter. So the film opens up with Beverly in the sewers in 1989 when she's got the dead light eyes and she's floating, and then after that it cuts to them in September, and they're having a little chit chat about Beverly having her whole entire visions of the future and how they're adults and that, and they all start asking her questions. For example, what do they look like? Richie asks. She says that he goes into his look, and Stanley asks, and she says looks like him but taller, and that's basically the gist of that scene. So then it's 2016, 27 years later, and if you've read the book, if you have managed to read all of this, which, good, it's actually pretty good. I've not read that much, but it's pretty good. If I say the name Adrian Mellon, you will immediately know who I'm talking about. Basically, Adrian Mellon is a character from the book that gets killed, but it's a good scene. It's a good scene. It's well done. Basically, there is a carnival going on in Derry, and Adrian's there, and he's playing one of those water gun games with, they have the water gun and they have the thing with the balloon, and you have to fill up the balloon and you win a prize. Adrian wins. There's this child next to him who's not very happy that he won, because she wanted to win. So when his boyfriend comes along, he gives the child the toy, and says thanks for letting me win. I actually really like him. He's quite smart, and he's kind, and he's funny. Well, I say smart. They're connected. The smart and funny. Basically, they kiss, and a bunch of homophobic teenagers get all pissy because they decide to kiss each other. And after that, he gets a hat put on that says "I heart dairy," and yeah, the I can't fucking speak. Basically, they follow them across a bridge, and then they basically tell Adrian to get the hat off, and he's like, "Well, yes, I'll get the hat off. Is there anything else that you'd like me to get off, ladies?" Of course, this pisses them off because they're all guys in Derry, with it making them pretty terrible people. But yeah, after that, they beat the shit out of him, and they beat the shit out of his boyfriend. Then they toss Adrian off the bridge, and he starts to drown, and he goes down the river, and he runs into Pennywise, and Pennywise grabs him, and his boyfriend goes down, and he's on the other side of the bank, and he's watching Pennywise hold Adrian, and then he bites. Pennywise just rips into him, and you see it happen, and it's pretty gory. It's pretty cool scene. Poor Adrian, by the way. But yeah, after that, there's a fuck ton of balloons, and I think that's when the title card comes up. Either that, or it's when Mike hears it on the police radio. Mike stayed behind in Derry. Everyone else fucked off, and basically he stayed behind. So he hears on the radio that there's been a nasty murder down by the bridge, and he goes there, and he finds a pop balloon that says "I heart Derry," and he looks at one of the pillars of the bridge, and he sees that on a pillar behind this pillar there's blood, and written on the pillar is "Come home," and that confirms to him that it is back, and that's when the title card comes. Actually, I remember now. So then next, he starts phoning the Losers Club. The first one to get a phone call is Bill, and Bill is writing in a trailer on a Warner Brothers movie set. Basically, he is trying to write an ending, and he goes in, and he goes and sees his wife, Audra, who is preparing to be in this scene for his film, and Audra is never seen after this scene again. He accidentally says something out of turn, basically saying, "Why can't you be the woman that I want you to be?" She's not very happy about that, but he meant by the character. But you mix up your wording, you fuck things up. You can ruin your relationship like that. After that scene, she's never seen again. The director of of the film basically says that he wants Bill to be happy with the production. He doesn't want Bill to hate it. He wants him to have a good ending, because all of his book endings are shit. And James McAvoy plays Bill. Does a pretty good job. All the cast do a good job. But basically, Bill says to the director, "You told me you liked that ending." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that was a lie." It's quite a funny bit. But anyway, he leaves the studio set. He leaves the set, doesn't leave the studio. He leaves the set, and he gets a phone call, and it's Mike, and of course he's at first like, Mike is like, "Oh, it's Mike," and then he's like, "Mike who?" And then he's like, "Mike Hamlin," and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you," and then his hand starts to hurt where he cut it at the end of the last one, and yeah, he basically says, "When do I need to come?" And Mike's like, "Tomorrow, you need to be here tomorrow." So he immediately gets ready to go. Next, it's Eddie, who is in New York, and he doesn't own a taxi business this time around. This time around, he is a risk assessor. Basically, he goes around buildings and stuff, pointing out risks, and things that can cause liabilities and stuff like that. You know, and he's pretty good at it, and he makes quite a lot of money. But he's in his car and he's on the phone to his wife, who looks exactly like his mother and acts exactly like his mother. Like I said in the other reviews where I mentioned Eddie, basically in the 90s one where I said he's got a wife, and I think in part 1 where I said Eddie's going to have a wife that's like his mum. But anyway, he gets a phone call from Mike, and he crashes his car. He crashes the car because Mike mentions it, and you know, he has a little panic and he crashes his car. Next, it moves on to Richie, who is now a stand-up comedian, but we don't know that just now, as he is currently throwing up his guts over a railing after getting a phone call from Mike, and then he goes on stage to do his stand-up act, and he fucks up badly. He forgets everything. He forgets every joke that he was going to tell, and he just stands there, and that's it. Next, I believe it's Mike. Yes, Mike ends up having his own firm for architecture. He basically designs buildings from his own home on Skype. At first, I was really worried because there's this business guy that looks just like young Ben, which he's fat and he's got the hair like this, and nah, Ben ain't like that in the book. In the book, he's a fit boy. He gets quite fit, and after that, they reveal that he's, you know, fit and he's rich and he doesn't have to go places. He literally is just wearing, the top half of him is wearing a suit and the rest of him is just like loungewear. So yeah, he doesn't have to leave the house very often in order to do things. But he gets a phone call from Mike. He hangs up on his business call and he gets ready to go. Then next, I believe it's Stan. Stan is now an accountant, and Stan is currently doing a puzzle, and he's trying to find the last piece. He finds the last piece. He gets a phone call, and then he has a flashback, first-person flashback to when he cut his hand, when Bill cut his hand open for the pact, and then he goes for a bath and kills himself, like I said he would do in part 1 review, because that's a vital part. But I'm not going to give any shit at all to him for, you know, quitting, basically because he explains at the end why he did it, and I'll explain later. But next it's Beverly. Beverly is the last one, and she is in her I want to say mansion. It's not a mansion, it's just a really, really big house. It's not a mansion though. It's not. It's in New York, I believe. And basically, she has an abusive husband, like I said she would. Because that's basically her story. She's constantly in an abusive relationship at some point. But basically, she gets a phone call from Mike in the middle of the night. She answers the call, she starts packing, and her husband wakes up, and he's not very happy. He's not very happy that Beverly is getting ready to leave and not telling him. And he's all pissy because apparently she cheated on him before, and he's all about truth. And then he starts hitting her with a belt, and he punches her, and he pushes her, and then he tries to take his top off, and Beverly kicks him, and then she hits him over the head with a picture frame, which looks quite familiar. You know, because she does the same thing to her dad with the top of a toilet. But yeah, she leaves. She also takes her ring off right outside the door, and her abusive husband also screams at her while she leaves. For example, he screams, "You're nothing without me, you know that," and that's when she leaves the ring. She's out of that relationship now. So yeah, after that, it focuses down on a storm drain because it's currently pushing it down, and there's this flow of water, and now it's back to 1989, and Henry Bowers has been blasted out of the sewer by this pipe into the Barrens with a bunch of dead kid body parts and blood, and it's quite gory, quite creepy. It's well shot, is basically what I'm trying to say. But yeah, Henry goes home. He gets arrested by a bunch of police officers after they punch him a bit because his dad was a police officer, and they're not very happy that he killed the police officer, which was also his dad, who was a bit of a dick. But doesn't mean he should stab him in the neck and while he's sleeping. But yeah, basically that happens, and Henry doesn't give a fuck that he's getting beaten up or arrested. He just looks up and there's a red balloon, and he's really focused on it. And then next after it focuses on the red balloon, and then it's 2016 again, and it's outside of an asylum. Basically, the balloon is just supposed to signify to Henry that it is back, it is time, and basically Henry sees it out in the window, and he goes basically full on movie insane, where he just jumps on the window and he hangs off and he starts making noises, and then all the other fucking inmates start making noises, and then he runs, the balloon moves and he runs after it, following it room to room, and then he gets in one room, which I believe is his room. Doesn't see the balloon anymore. He gets a little bit sad, but then he notices that it's under his bed and it's trapped, and he tries pulling it like this, keeps trying to pull it, nothing happens. Then it pops, and then right under his bed is Charlie, his pal who died. Charlie Hofstadter, the kid that the bully that Pennywise killed in the sewers when he was chasing Ben. And this scares Henry to the other end of the room, and Charlie crawls out, a decaying corpse back. Very lovely. He crawls straight for Henry and hands him a box, and in the box is Henry's knife. And Henry's very pleased about this. And after that, it cuts to the losers going to the Chinese restaurant, which I keep forgetting the name of. I think it's the Oriental Palace. I think that's the name of it. Anyway, basically they go there. First it's Mike's there, and then there's Bill, and then there's Eddie, and then there's Ben and Beverly and Richie all meet up at the same time and go in, and Richie cracks a couple of jokes, because he's Richie, he does that. And after that, they have a meal. They have a meal, but unlike the miniseries where there's music playing over it and you don't know what the fuck is going on, you don't know what they're saying, you don't know what they're eating, you don't know what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. They just look very happy in the montage, but no, there's dialogue. They have a little chit chat about things and blah blah blah, and it just doesn't feel as long. It doesn't feel as long as it did in that. And then you get the whole entire. Then basically, Richie mentions that good old Stan is a pussy because he hasn't showed up. They don't know that he's killed himself. So basically, this is where we get the part with the fortune cookies, but it's ramped up to 11. Because in the miniseries, it's just like each one has like a certain thing, but in this one, each one has a word, has a piece of paper with a single word, and it ends up spelling, guess Stanley couldn't cut it. Because he committed suicide. But after that, things just go fucking apeshit. They just start opening on their own, and things start crawling out, and then heads appear in the fish tanks behind them, and they start singing, and then Mike starts smashing the table with a chair. Yeah, basically everything just goes fucking nuts. And then this worker walks in, and she sees none of it. She just sees Mike swinging a chair at the table. She's like, is everything okay? They're like, yeah, everything's okay, because they realise, wait a minute, this isn't real. And after that, they go outside, and Beverly calls Stan's wife. Stan's wife answers, tells him that he killed himself, And Belle was like, oh yeah, I saw that in my vision. Basically, she says that she sees them all die in her vision, which I think is just Pennywise trying to scare her. I don't think she actually sees them all in her vision fucking dead. But anyway, this scares everyone, and they want to go home, and they get ready to go home. And Mike tries to talk to them, tries to get them to, join his side, try to get them to help him defeat it, but they're not having it. Apart from Bill, he manages to convince Bill to come with him, and this is when we see the asylum breakout. Basically, it is night time, and at the asylum, Henry kills a bunch of inmates, and one of the inmates walks through a door, and he uses that inmate as basically a human shield to get in, like a disguise, and then he kills the guard and escapes, and goes to the car that he was in at the end of part of chapter 1, and then then we get a pretty cool transition. Well, Charlie's driving, but we get a pretty cool transition as his car goes. Mike's stops at the library with Bill, and basically him and Bill go into the library, and it turns out Mike's lived here for the past 27 years, and in this like part at the back of the library, no one goes there anymore. I mean, it's 2016. Who the fuck goes to libraries? But anyway, he asks if Bill wants a drink. This is important. Basically, Bill says, yeah, I'll just have some water, and Mike gives him a glass of water, and Bill drinks it, and then Mike explains that he may have found a way to deal with it. Basically, there's this Native American tribe that live just outside of Derry, and they have this ritual called the Ritual of Chud, and basically this ritual will allow them to contain it and stop it. And he turns out he had been drugged by these Native Americans to see basically what happened and where it comes from. It comes from space, by the way. Basically he does the same to Bill. He's drugged him with the water, and basically once that happens, he starts seeing shit on this leather thing that Mike's got, which shows how the Ritual of Chud works. And there's this scratched side, and Bill's like, what the fuck is this? And Mike's like, that doesn't matter. But anyway, they go to the hotel. They I think there's this baseball scene, but I don't know where it fits into the film. Again, I can't quite remember at what part. I think it's between Mike and Bill making their way to the hotel. Basically, there's this scene at night, and the little kid from the beginning, the one that was given the toy, she is at a baseball game with her mom, and she's like, I want to go home. Mom's like, no, we're watching baseball, you fucking stay here. She's like, I don't want to stay here. She's like, well, you gotta stay here. And then she sits there and she sees a firefly, and she falls after it, trying to catch it, which leads her under the bleachers, where she meets Pennywise. And Pennywise manages to trick her into coming closer. Basically, he grabs the firefly, and he basically tries to hide his face. Well, he doesn't try to. We can see it, but I'm just guessing the character can't, because he keeps saying, come closer to see my face, because basically he says that he doesn't have that many friends, and that she's like, I don't have that many friends either. I get bullied because she's got a birthmark on her cheek. And Pennywise is all like, oh, you get bullied because of a birthmark on your cheek. I can make that go away with one little puff. And then she's like, oh, really? At first she's scared of him because he's hiding in the dark, but then Pennywise tricks her by saying, oh, well, I've been bullied because of the way I look, and that's why I'm hiding in the dark, because I think you'd be my friend if you didn't see my face. And then he's like, if you promise that you won't laugh at me, then I will help you. And she's like, oh, I won't laugh. And then he's like, okay, on the count of 3, and he goes 1, 2, and then there's a pause, which builds a bit of tension. And the kid says, you're supposed to say 3, and as soon as she says 3, Pennywise's mouth just opens wide and fucking bites her in the head. And she's dead. And that's Pennywise with another meal and another child dead in Derry. But, and missing. But, after that, Bill and Mike go to the hotel where the rest of the Losers Club are. They're all talking about leaving. Beverly mentions that she sees them all die in her vision. And they all get a little bit freaked out, and then basically they talk. Basically they say, we'll come back when we're like 60 and we'll deal with it. And, well, Richie says that, and Beverly says, even if we wanted to, we can't, because we'll not make it that long. Basically saying that these visions will come to pass in less than 27 years. So, yeah, Mike starts talking about the ritual of Chud, and Bill backs him up, and they all start believing in it, and basically, Mike mentions that they need certain tokens, things that matter to them, so that they can remember. Basically, the next day they go out into the forest, and this is where we get a scene that we've never seen before, because it's new. There's a underground clubhouse which Ben built. Don't ask me how the fuck he built it. He's just very good. Well, actually, he does explain. He explains that it was basically like that before, but he just had to reinforce some stuff, and he done that, and now they have a clubhouse underground. And they find an item for Stan, which is a tube filled with shower caps, and basically Stan just gets them all to wear shower caps so that spiders don't end up in their hair, and they oblige, apart from Richie. He offers Richie one, and he's like, we're not scared of spiders, and then Stan moves out the way, and then everyone else has got a shower cap on, and then Eddie gets a bit annoyed because Richie's had his 10 minutes on the hammock, and Richie is of course not wanting to move, so Eddie just jumps on there and boots him in the face. And, they have a chat about if they're still going to be friends when they're older, and of course everyone's like, yeah, of course we're going to be friends when we're older. Just because we're older doesn't mean we can't stop being friends. But anyway, after that, they explain that they don't need to remember much more because they've been with each other that entire time. But then Mike brings up the fact that they had that split in part 1 where, Richie mentioned that Georgie's dead and Bill punches Richie, and, that bit I was talking about. Yeah, they reveal that they need to find a token to signify a memory in that time. I think first it's Beverly that gets it first. Basically, there's this scene of Bill and Beverly heading to Beverly's house, and Beverly is talking to Bill about how they'll just make up and be friends again in like less than a day, and Bill's like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I think Richie might be right. He might be right. We might as well not do anything about it, and she's not very happy about that. But anyway, it cuts to 2016, and Beverly is outside of her childhood house, and she ends up she goes there, and, typical thing, Dad's dead, it says Kirsch instead of Marsh, and then she goes in, old lady offers her tea, old lady acts a little bit creepy, she mentions that she was Daddy's favourite. This is where things start to differentiate. Basically, she sees pictures of Pennywise, but without makeup, and she's all like, oh, I was Daddy's little girl, how about you, Beverly? And Beverly's just standing there as this old lady is now naked and standing in the dark, and now she's become a fucking monster. She's like grown like twice the size, and Her tits are sagging and swinging about the place, and Beverly's running around. She's got her item, by the way. I forgot to mention that her item is the poem, which is hidden in a little bit in a wall, and she gets it. And there's a funny bit where the old lady, which is obviously Pennywise, and when he sees that she's got the item, he just does this like fucking goddamn it movement where he like stamps his foot and moves his arm, and then just gets out of shot. But yeah, Beverly leaves, realizes that it's a condemned building, and yeah, that's it for her. Bill goes around Derry for a little bit. He goes to an antique shop where he finds silver in the window, and this is where we get a Stephen King cameo. Basically, Stephen King works there, and he's like, "How much?" And he's like, "Oh, you're Bill Denbrough. You write books. You must have a lot of money, so you can afford this." And he's like, "Well, how much then?" And then he's like, $300. And obviously Bill, because he's a schmuck, nostalgic schmuck, pays it. And he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to read this." And Stephen King's like, "Well, not the best idea." He basically takes the piss out of him for how he can't write good endings, because Bill sees that he's got one of his books, and he goes, "Yeah, ending's crap." And after that, good old Bill says that he's going to ride the bike, and Stephen King's like, "Well, it's been here for a long time, and it won't go very fast." And he's like, "Well, actually, it could go so fast that it could outrun the devil." So then he starts cycling on silver again, and things go wrong, and then things go right. And then he sees that at his old childhood house, I forgot to mention the child at the restaurant. Shit! There's a child at the restaurant after their whole entire ordeal with the cookies. I thought I was going so well with this, but basically, there's this child that walks up to Richie and repeats one of his jokes, which is basically, this is where the fun begins, but Richie doesn't realise that, because Richie doesn't write his own material. So he acts all strange and screams at the child, and once he realises that the child's not a hallucination, he gets all apologetic and asks if the kid wants a photo, and he goes, "I'm okay." That was quite funny and quite awkward though. But yeah, he sees that child is now living at his childhood home, and he ends up cycling past, and he goes to the storm drain, where Georgie died. And he has a flashback to when he was younger, and he was at that drain, and he started screaming down it, why did Pennywise take Georgie instead of any other kid in Derry? And then he's stuck there for a little while, and then Pennywise responds when he's about to walk away, which is basically, "Because you weren't there," basically reinforcing Bill's guilt and fear about Georgie. And then after that, Bill's about to leave, but then Georgie appears at the storm drain. This is adult Bill, by the way, and he basically tells Georgie to grab his hand. Seems like he's back at square fucking one, where he believes that Georgie isn't dead, and basically he sees Georgie standing there, and he's holding the boat, and he tries to reach for Georgie, but then a bunch of hands grab his hand, and yeah, it's just, and almost pull him halfway through the drain and into the sewer, which you would think that it would just decide to do what he'd done to his little brother, just to get rid of him, but no, it doesn't happen. He gets the paper boat, and that's his item, that's his token. Then I think it's Richie. Richie probably has the worst out of the lot for the flashbacks and the whole entire ordeal with Pennywise. Basically, Richie is at the arcade. He goes to the arcade that he was at, and it's all run down and it's empty. And he goes in and he gets a game token, and then he has a flashback where he looks back to him playing Street Fighter 2 with this random kid, who turns out to be Henry Burroughs' cousin, They finish having a game, and then he asks if Henry's cousin will want to have another game, and he gets all weird and starts calling Richie gay, and basically this pisses off Henry, thinking that Richie is trying to get with his cousin, when that's not the case at all. He just wanted them to play a game of Street Fighter, and then he uses the slur that will get people kicked off the internet, and basically he tells him that he's not welcome in the arcade and he should get the fuck out before he kills him, and Richie runs away. Hold on, I need to... Sorry, I forgot that I hadn't plugged in my laptop. But basically, let's just continue. Basically, Richie runs away. I was about to say Henry, but no. Richie runs away. He runs away to the kissing bridge, where he writes R+E, which I thought meant Bowser's cousin, but no, it means Eddie Kaspbrak. You can see by the way that they act as adults. Well, Richie acts towards him as an adult, that it's obviously Eddie. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that earlier. I picked up on it towards the part near the end. But anyway. He then goes to the park where he sits and chills out, and then he looks at where the big statue of that guy with the hook thing that was in the first one, and it's gone. It's fucking gone. It's not there. And then he looks away, and then he looks back, and it's moving around and trying to kill him, and its head is detaching and talking, and it's Pennywise, his voice, and then Richie does the whole entire it's not real, and it disappears, and then he says that he shits pants, and it turns out that adult Richie is now in the park, and there's some practice for the festivals going on. Well, it would seem like it, but yeah, Richie is standing there, and he's all alright. He's about to walk away with his token, and all of a sudden, he hears Pennywise. Pennywise asks him if he wants to play a game, and then he says, "Oh, you Street Fighter, you like that a lot. How about Truth or Dare? You wouldn't actually want anyone to pick Truth, because I know your dirty little secret. Should I tell them, Richie? Should I tell them all?" And then Richie is obviously stunned and confused as to why Pennywise is sat there, and Pennywise starts singing. He starts singing about Richie's dirty little secret, and he sounds incredibly angry. And Richie, of course, does the it's not real situation. And you think, well, this is going to work. It doesn't. Pennywise, he opens his eyes, and Pennywise gives him a jump scare, and then he runs away to the hotel. Basically, Pennywise is upset because nobody wants to play with a clown, and his face just fucking goes like this. Like, one eye goes down, the other eye goes up, for creepy effect, but it's not really that creepy. It looks stupid, but it's both creepy and stupid. But yeah, after that, I believe it is Eddie that has a flashback. Well, Eddie goes to the pharmacy to go and pick up a prescription for his inhaler, and we find that the old pharmacist, this is a difference from the miniseries that I know, the old pharmacist is still working there. He is still the pharmacist, and his daughter is working there too. You know, the real bitchy one that writes loser on Eddie's cast. Yeah, she's working there. She's about 40, and she's still working with her dad. So basically, sorry, I got an itch. Basically, Eddie hears his mum's voice coming from the basement, and this is the flashback, by the way. Of course, the pharmacist's daughter is being a bitch, saying that he's got a tumour on his dick, and you know, he then hears his mum's voice from a door that leads to the basement, and he goes down there, and he finds a bunch of blood bags and a closed curtain with his mum tied to a table. Actually, not only are the blood bags there are dirty needles and broken glass on the floor. And yeah, Eddie, of course, makes his way through there, and he scares himself, which causes him to clumsily fall around the place, knocking over bags of blood and almost getting himself stabbed with dirty needles. But yeah, he makes his way to the end of the room. He pulls back the curtain, sees his mum's tied there, and he tries to help her out. And at the end of the room, there's a guy chained with a blanket over him. And yeah, it's quite a tense scene. It's quite tense. Doesn't make that much sense when you watch it, but you know, it's tense. Well, I'm only saying it doesn't make that much sense because people that I was with were confused as fuck when it came to that part. But yeah, turns out it's the leper, and Eddie tries to save his mom. He fails, and he basically, the leper sticks his tongue down her throat, and then adult Eddie is standing there. The room is empty, but then there's the leper, and it attacks him and tries to strangle him, but that doesn't work as Eddie then strangles the leper, and then the leper throws up a bunch of grey goop, and Eddie runs away in fear, and he tries pushing the door when it's a pull, and yeah, that happens, and he goes back to the hotel, and he's covered in this goop. He's not very happy. Beverly's like, "What the fuck happened to you?" He's like, "I'm going first. I'm going." But there's also Ben's, which I think Ben's came first. Now that I think about it, came before Eddie's. I mean, basically, Ben goes to the school where summer school is happening, and he has a flashback where he was at summer school. So yeah, even though it's summer, he doesn't just spend his time in the library. He goes to fucking summer school. So he goes to summer school. The summer school's out, and these kids start bullying him for being fat as they leave the room. And then there's Beverly there, and he of course starts talking to Beverly. They have a bit of a good time. She tells him about how she knows that he wrote the poem, and basically after that, he leans in, and she starts acting like a bitch. Basically being like, who would want to kiss? Why would I want to kiss a fat boy like you? Why would I want to do that? And turns out it's Pennywise, and he figures this out because he realizes Beverly wouldn't say shit like that. And then all of a sudden he looks back and Beverly's head is on fucking fire, which obviously would fucking like scare the shit out of anyone. Just turning around and their friend's fucking head is on fire, and so he runs away. He runs towards the exit. Exit's locked, so he goes to his locker and hides in there. And then he looks out. There's nothing there. He looks around his locker. There's nothing there. He looks out again. Nothing there. And then he looks back, and there's Pennywise, pulling a really dumb face. He does that quite a lot. He pulls a lot of dumb faces. But yeah, he does that. Ben jumps out the locker in fear, and then Pennywise hits him with the "Kiss me, fat boy" line, and he tries squeezing out, and Ben manages to escape. And then we have adult Ben standing there in the summer school, and yeah, I forgot to mention as well, in this locker, Ben gets his item, which is the yearbook sheet. Basically, in the first one, I don't think I mentioned it in the review. Basically, in the first one, Ben has his yearbook and Beverly signs it. Beverly's the only signature, and he keeps it in his wallet, actually. But he figures out that that's his thing from the flashback. And then, yeah, there's nothing for Mike. Mike doesn't get a flashback, because, you know, he's stayed in Derry. He knows everything. He knows everything. He hasn't forgotten everything, unlike everyone else. So, yeah, as I said, Eddie goes back to the hotel. Everyone goes back to the hotel. Richie's planning on leaving, and Ben's talking to Beverly, and Beverly mentions the poem, but she doesn't know that it's him that wrote it. She still thinks it's Bill. And then Richie's all like, "I'm fucking leaving. This is fucking bullshit. I'm too scared to be here. No, fuck this. I'm going." And then they're like, "Well, you'll die in like less than 27 years." And he's like, "We'll all die anyway." And then he runs and goes and packs his stuff. And then Ben runs after him to go and convince him to stay. And Eddie comes and he's covered in goop, and Beverly's confused, and he's like, "Nah, I'm okay, I'm gonna go for a shower." And he goes to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden there's fucking Henry Bowers, who's snuck in through the window, and he stabs Eddie in the cheek. By the way, Henry isn't as much of a threat as he is in the miniseries. Basically, he stabs him in the cheek, and Eddie steps into the shower with it still on his cheek, and he closes the curtain, and it's quite funny. It's quite funny during a tense scene. And then Henry goes to pull back the curtain, but before he can, Eddie stabs him through the curtain. And this doesn't kill Henry. No. This isn't the end of Henry Bowers. Henry jumps out the window with the curtain still attached, with the knife still stuck in him. And then he goes outside. Eddie looks and he sees him pull out the knife. The curtain falls, and then he runs away, giggling like a fucking madman. And then Eddie steps out of his room, and everyone sees that he has been stabbed in the cheek and want to help him. And also Bill came back, and Bill, not only has he came back, but there's a skateboard that's gone down the stairs, and it says that basically you weren't there to save him, and you won't be here to save this kid. And he goes, oh shit, the carnival, the kid's gone to the carnival, I need to go to the carnival. So then we get the trailer scene where he goes into the carnival screaming after the child. There's a bunch of clown stuff. There's a spinning tunnel that's in a clown's mouth, and which leads into the place, and then there's a bunch of swinging clowns which knock him on his ass, and it sounds like it's heavy. It's not like the typical stuff that you get. It's just like this fucking hard plastic, it seems like, when he gets hit, because he's like, oof, like he's been winded instead of like oof, like it's just a little hit. But no, he basically falls to the ground, and then he gets up, he runs after, and then he ends up in the hall of mirrors, the mirror maze, which doesn't end well. Basically, Bill chases after him, after the child, screaming after the child, and Pennywise is also in there, and Pennywise manages to get to the child, manages to keep the child in one area, and Bill is trying to break down the glass, trying to save the kid. The kid's confused because, at this point it feels like he's being stalked by Bill, but Bill is just trying to save him, because I also forgot to mention, at the storm drain part, he screams at the child to stay away from the sewer. If he hears like voices from the sewer, stay away. But the kid mentions that he hears voices in the drain, and basically Bill tells him to tell his parents to get the fuck out of Derry, make any excuse, just get out. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to carnival. So yeah, that's how Bill knows where the kid is. I forgot to mention that. But also, he tries to knock down the glass, doesn't work. Nothing that he does works. He tries punching it, he tries elbowing it, he tries kicking it. Doesn't work. All the force he puts into it doesn't work at all. Pennywise just starts headbutting the window after he's licked it. Yeah, when he likes to lick windows, what can I say? But yeah, he headbutts it, and then on the final headbutt, he brings his mouth open, and the teeth come out, and then he rips the kid's head off, and which leaves Bill facing a bunch of window full of blood. And it cuts away, and they're all like, "Oh well, what the fuck are we gonna do?" And Richie tries to leave. He leaves. Ben says that he manages to convince Richie not to leave, but he leaves anyway. And after he leaves, he goes on another trip down memory lane, where he goes to, I think it's called a synagogue. Basically, he goes there and he has a flashback of Stan at his bar mitzvah, where he basically just says, "Fuck it, I am a loser, I don't give a fuck." And then, after that, he joins back with them, and Bill has managed to escape the funhouse somehow, probably by retracing his steps, and Pennywise was like, "Nah, fuck it, I'll just let him go." Basically, he calls the losers and tells them, "Hey, I'm gonna go fucking finish this. I'm gonna go to Newbolt Street and I'm gonna fucking kill it." And they're like, "No, you're not gonna do that alone." And then he's like, "Yes, I am." And they're like, "No, you're not." So they go down to Newbolt Street. They go by car. He goes by bike. And but before that, Henry appears in the library. He tries to kill Mike, and Richie hits him in the head with an axe. If you wonder where the axe is from, basically when Bill enters, there's an axe in a glass case, it's focused on, and now since it's near the end, obviously that has to be used. But yeah, they make their way to Nebo Street. Bill basically tells them to go away, he has to deal with it alone, and they're like, no, we're much better doing it together. And Eddie starts being a coward, he starts being like Stan, and it gets a little bit annoying after a little bit. But basically, Bill says, oh, Richie said it best the last time we were here, and then he starts cycling through the jokes that he said, you know, your mum jokes and stuff like that. And then he realises that what Bill was talking about was it's time to kill this fucking clown. Which, yeah, they say that, and then they march on inside with a fire poker, and not that much, to be fair. So they go in, they have their torches, they have their fire poker, and yeah, they basically go in. They get split into two groups by Pennywise. One group is in the fridge room from the first movie, where in the fridge is Stanley's dead body, but a young version of Stanley, and his head's been cut off. Basically, in this room, there is now Richie, Bill, and Eddie. Eddie just goes into the corner and starts panicking, which is understandable, because that's the room where his arm was dislocated, and Pennywise came out of the fridge like a transformer. But yeah, that'd be terrifying though, if like a fridge just opened by itself and inside is a fucking clown that wants to eat you alive. But yeah, that happens. The head rolls out, and then all of a sudden it becomes the thing where it sprouts fucking spider legs out of it, but it comes out of the eyes and everything, so it's fucking disgusting, and there's pus everywhere, and it tries to kill Richie, and Bill tries to stop it from killing Richie, and Eddie just stands there. He just stands there. Meanwhile, in the other room with Ben, Beverly, and fuck, my brain's forgetting. Mike. They're all in there, and all of a sudden, there's blood on Ben on his chest where there is a H. You know, when Henry cut his abdomen to write his name, and basically that happens. And it turns out that it's supposed to say home at last. And Pennywise goes to cut his throat, but Beverly sees that in the mirror that they can see Pennywise even though he's not actually there. So she smashes the mirror, and all of a sudden all the damage is undone. And then they make their way to the other room where they help the other ones out by stabbing the head several times. And it escapes. It crawls out the room, and it keeps trying to attack them. But after that stabbing, it leaves them alone. But yeah, they make their way down the well, and they go down, and they go to where they were last time, which is now flooded. And in there is this like bony bit, and there's a trap door, and they start talking about like what's under the trap door, Mike. And Mike's like, I have no fucking clue. I have no idea. So they basically have no fucking clue what's down there. And Beverly is still in the water, and she gets attacked by the apartment demon again. Well, I say apartment demon, but it's Pennywise in disguise again. And everyone but Eddie jumps after her, and they save her. And then Eddie starts panicking. He gets all scared again. Says that he can't do this, and then Richie acts all lovingly towards him and tells him that who's the guy that did this when we were kids, who's the guy that did this, and who's the guy who married someone 10 times his body weight. And then Eddie's just like me. So then they go down, they head on down, they find this really small gap, they crawl through it, and this comes into play later. Basically, they make their way into this big area where it seems like this is where it lives. Basically, in this area, there's a bunch of black spikes, and they start getting ready to do the ritual of Chud. And basically, they put this leather pot in the middle, and Mike lights a fire, and he tells them all put their tokens in. So they all put their tokens in, and Mike has his token, which is a rock. It's the rock that Beverly threw and hit Henry Bowers in the head. And chapter 1 during the rock fight. And they basically, Eddie's like, that won't burn, and then Richie's like, well, it's better than what you put in your inhaler, all that plastic and toxic fumes and blah blah blah. Anyway, that joke happens, and then they hold hands and they start chanting, basically for darkness to destroy the light. And all of a sudden, out of the fucking ceiling is a vagina with teeth, and it brings down these 3 orange lights. Well, I say orange. I say lights. They're the dead lights, and they come down, and they all close their eyes, and they keep chanting and chanting and chanting, and it comes down. It goes in the leather pot, and Mike puts the lid on it, and he starts chanting something else, and he tells them to keep chanting, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Basically, the dead lights turn into a balloon that starts inflating and inflating to the point where Mike can't keep the lid on it. So they all back away. They all get out. They'll get out of the road, and it pops. It pops, and there's Pennywise, a gigantic version of Pennywise. And I'll be honest, I was quite creeped out of this bit. Basically, this giant Pennywise is a mix between the spider and Pennywise. Basically, take the spider, like a gigantic spider, and put a Pennywise skin over it. So, instead of it just being this big black thing, it's like the grey and white costume, and it's got the buttons, and then it's got his head at the top, and all of its legs are its legs, and it's got these 2 pincer things at the front, and he starts talking, and he's like, well, you didn't tell them about the fourth side, did you, Mikey? No, where they failed. And everyone feels betrayed by Mike because, he told them that this was a 100% foolproof, and there was no chance of it fucking up if they believed in it. And, Pennywise calls Mike insane, there are several instances in the film where you're like, yeah, there's something wrong with Mike. But basically, Pennywise then tries to kill them all. And he separates them, and they all have their own little moments of terror. For example, Ben and Beverly end up in a tunnel, and they all get sent through this really long tunnel, and at the end of it is a door. Beverly's door leads to the bathroom from chapter 1 that we first see her in, and Ben's leads him all the way to the secret hideout in the woods. And in Beverly's, the bathroom begins to fill up with blood as everyone who's ever antagonized her starts talking shit, calling her a slut, and, a whore, and all that. Basically, all that mean, nasty shit that they keep saying. And then her dad appears, and he's all, oh, you stole my baby girl, baby, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, to cut a long story short, place fills up with blood. She kicks the door, severing her dad's fingers, and then her and Ben have a little chit chat, and Pennywise decides to fuck with Ben now, and basically takes the piss out of him. Basically, it's like that bit from Batman Begins where Michael Caine mentions how he does all those push-ups but he can't lift a log. So it's basically like that. He basically cracks a joke like that, and then I think it was something like all those push-ups and sit-ups, and that doesn't stop you from being a fat kid. Like, you're still fat kid. And basically, he closes over this door, and the walls collapse, and dirt comes through, and basically Ben starts shouting for Beverly, and Beverly starts shouting for Ben, and then that's when Beverly finds out that Ben wrote the poem, and they get out of it alive, and they get out of that situation alive, and they have their little January embers, my heart burns there too a bit, and then turns out that Richie and Eddie are in a different tunnel where there is the 3 doors from chapter 1. Not scary at all, scary, very scary. Richie is like, well, last time when we went not scary, there was half of Betty Ripson. So let's go for the very scary. They go into the very scary, and the other half of Betty Ripson comes running at them. Basically, in the first chapter, it was her torso, and the second chapter, it's her legs. She actually says in the first one, "Where's my shoe?" But yeah, after that, they close that door and they go for the not very scary. And there's a little Pomeranian dog, and this gave me a jump scare. Not the dog, by the way, not the dog. It's not the dog. It's what happens next. So they deduce that this dog is going to transform into something horrifying, and they basically try to do a test of getting it to sit, getting it to do this and that, and then they decide, it's a harmless little dog, nothing's going to happen, and then it suddenly transforms into a dog monster, which made me jump, but I was anticipating it, and that's why I got a bigger jump than I should have. But yeah, so after that, they realise that Pennywise is leaving them alone, and they run out of that tunnel, and Richie throws a rock at Pennywise, and Pennywise is not very happy with this. And he just shoots him a look like, for fuck's sake, man, what do you think that was going to do? He just like this, he's like attacking something else, and then he looks over at him like this, and then he goes to make a one-liner, and then Pennywise just opens his mouth, and there's the dead lights, and Richie's stuck, frozen in the dead lights. And Bill is dealing with his own thing. He fell into a pool of water, now it's frozen over, and he ends up in a different place, which is in his basement. And now he basically is at the point of view of Pennywise, where this is where we get the "you lied and I died, you lied and I died." Basically, this reveals that Bill was actually not sick at the beginning of chapter 1. He was faking it. He was faking it so he didn't have to go and play with Georgie on a rainy day. And I mean, fair enough, you don't want to go and play on a rainy day, you could have just told him that. You know, you could have just said, hey, well bro, I don't feel like going out in the rain. Do you mind just like chilling out? But nah. That's why Bill feels so responsible, even though it's not his fault that Pennywise decides to take him. You know, because that's entirely Pennywise's thing, and I'm not going to blame Georgie because he's a 7-year-old kid. Basically, he has to deal with the whole entire, this isn't real, because there's the young version of himself trying to kill him with the cattle prod, which doesn't work because, you know, he realizes it's not real, so Pennywise can't harm him there. And he gets put back to the cave area, and they all face it again, and Richie is in the deadlights, and Eddie's given the fire poker, and he's like all scared, and Beverly mentions earlier that it kills monsters if you believe in it, so he does that, and we get it's somewhat like the bit in the miniseries where he decides to spray it and says it disappears with his inhaler, but it basically has the same outcome. He dies. Poor Eddie. He has a moment of where he thinks he's got a victory, he thinks he's won, and then all of a sudden a fucking spike comes out through him. Turns out that Pennywise isn't dead. It is not dead yet. And Richie is obviously very sad about this, because as I mentioned, he fancies Eddie. And they get scared, they grab Eddie, they take him down this small passageway, and they hide down there for a little bit, try to figure out what to do, and they realise that they need to make Pennywise smaller, so he's a lot easier to handle. And after this whole entire thing, Ben finds a tunnel which leads to another tunnel, which leads back in, which Pennywise wouldn't see them quite, and they drag Eddie around, and Eddie makes a your mum joke to Richie. It's actually quite funny in the moment, but you know, I can't quite remember the joke at the moment. But after that, they go to they're planning on basically going through the small rock opening that I'd mentioned earlier. They plan on going through that, and basically after that, so because Pennywise will have to shrink himself down, because something that the Native Americans said about basically whatever form it takes, it has to abide by the laws of nature. So basically, it has to shrink in order to fit through that. So yeah, they decide to go for that. Pennywise realizes what they're doing, and stops them from going there. And then Mike realizes, how else do you make something small? And that's by verbally abusing him. I'm not even joking. They start talking shit to Pennywise. Pennywise is like, I am the eater of worlds, I will kill you all, I am immortal, I am the eater of worlds. And then they're like, well, not to us. To us, to Ben he says, you're a headless child. Eddie, you're a statue. No, not Eddie. Richie, you're a statue. Eddie, you're a leper. Basically, that's it. They just start saying, like, you're a clown. And the one that's mostly said is, you're a clown. And this causes it to shrink down and down and down as it moves away from them. Which, like, I mean, it should just kill them. Instead of trying to scare them, it should just kill them. Although I do know it's all about belief, so yeah, there's that. If you don't believe in Pennywise, he might not be able to hurt you. But, you know, there still should be some way that it can do it. Because it can affect physical things like rocks and that. So, you know, it could have done something, but it does nothing. It basically becomes a baby-sized clown pancake. And after that happens, Richie rips off its tendril that it used to kill Eddie. And Mike puts his hand in its chest, grabs its beating heart. Pennywise basically says, you're all grown up now. And they all put their hand on the heart and rip it apart. And right after that happens, the toothy vagina closes and it breaks and everything breaks. And Richie wants to take Eddie because he believes Eddie can be saved, but they have to convince him that they don't have a lot of time. So they convince him that they don't have a lot of time and they must go, and they drag him away. And they get out, and yeah, after that, they go their separate ways. You know, they're all like, yeah, we won, but at a cost. And it's a little while later, and Richie is at the kissing bridge, and he puts in R plus E, and Beverly and Ben are together, and they've got a dog on a boat, and yeah. Bill finally realizes how to write endings, because it's a running joke. Everyone says that his endings are shit. And then Mike basically says, I've been trapped in Derry for 27 years, so I may actually just go out and see the world now. And after that, everything's hunky-dory, everyone is happy. There's a happy ending for everyone that's still alive. But anyway, I forgot to mention that at the end, Bill gets a phone call from Mike. That's when Mike says, oh yeah, I'm leaving Derry. And he also says, you got a letter from Stan. And this is where Stan explains why he killed himself. He explains that this is not a suicide note, and this is supposed to be his basically rationale for why he done it. Basically, he done it because he realised that he was the weakest link out of all of them. He realised that if he went down there with them, they would lose, no matter what. So that's why he killed himself, so that they would have less of a chance of losing. Because, you know, anyway, it's basically a self-sacrifice. And also, I forgot to mention, when he kills himself in the bathtub, he also leaves the sign of it. But yeah, basically, that's why he killed himself, and he has an entire speech about memories, and good memories, and bad memories. Yeah, after that, that's it done. It's all over, and that's the end of it, chapter 2. But anyway, time 2. Basically, I told you the view score, which was 7.5 balloons, red balloons. And yeah, I think I'm going to also add the I Love Derry onto those balloons, because, you know, that's the thing. It's also the balloon that Mike finds. But yeah, that's the end of this. Some of the effects for this look a bit weird. Like, for example, the old lady monster the old lady monster looks strange. Basically, they have a janky motion, like this, as they move around. They're quite jerky and janky, and it makes them look weird. It doesn't make them look that creepy. Well, it makes them look creepy, but in a funny way. To be fair, most of the audience was laughing every time something like that happened. But that's us done with reviewing It things. And hope you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like. If you didn't, do what you do. And who knows, there might be another adaptation of It sometime in the future. I mean, apparently the director mentioned that there is enough lore of It to make a third film. So who knows, that might actually happen. It could happen. I don't quite want it to happen, but it could happen. And if it does happen, I'll end up seeing it anyway. Anyway, the next Stephen King adaptation I know that's coming out, that I'm actually looking forward to, is Doctor Sleep. Because I really like The Shining. And it's a sequel slash spin-off to The Shining. And yeah, I'm excited for that. So I'll probably go see that in the future and review that. But I hope you enjoyed this, as I said already. And I'll hopefully see you next time, if you're new here. And you want to help me out, and you somehow made it through this entire hour and 11-minute video, thank you. Also, hit the subscribe button if you want, and if you want notifications, you've got to hit the bell, because that's a thing. And I'll hopefully see you next time, and goodbye.